Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I'm architect Surabhi Jindal, founder and principal lighting designer from the Light Hub Mumbai. I thank you all and welcome you all to the next series of the lockdown series in episode 3. Before we start, I request all participants to be on mute mode and also the video off mode. Click on the microphone icon on the lower left side of your screen to ensure that it is muted. Feel free to use the chat option on the lower right side, the lower middle right side of your screen to pose new questions. Once we open the session for Q&A after the interview, we will be recording this webinar for on demand and will share this on our channels. We are also live streaming currently on Facebook. We would like to thank our outreach partners, Youth for India, for being a part of today's webinar. As we all know, infra, real estate sector and industries specifically are badly hit due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a small effort to really understand from the professionals from the industry as well as the influencers about not only the impact on these sectors, but also really know how will these sectors revive back post the lockdown. How will it change our ways of working, and also what synergies we can have within different stakeholders from these sectors. A very famous quote says, "I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul, and I am the king of my dreams." This holds very true for our guest speaker today. She is a successful entrepreneur, passionate politician, speaker and advisor to ex-CM Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis ji, BJP spokesperson, TEDx speaker, SDG and government policy expert, Shweta Shalini ji. Thank you, Shweta ji, for joining us once again. It's a real...
Thank you, Surabhi. That was a brilliant introduction, and I think the lockdown series that you are doing is fantastic because we need more and more people to talk about how we will revive, what is going to be the SOPs post the lockdown, post the COVID era, and what are the new normals. And I think that's what you intend to do, talking to everybody.
Exactly.
And we really need to talk about it. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for joining us. I know you are very busy currently. In fact, I spoke to you yesterday, so you were very busy after the announcement of the economy package as well by Honorable Shri Modi ji. So so Shweta ji, before we quickly go on to the impact of COVID, I would really like to know about your in fact, we all would like to know about your inspiring journey, hailing from an army background to being an extremely successful entrepreneur, leading a diverse portfolio, a passionate politician, and extraordinary personality. What is it that inspires you every day to keep going and fulfilling all these roles every single day so brilliantly and beautifully? Of course, leading by example as well as leading from the front specifically.
So I'll tell you, I think what has really helped is coming from the army background. The defense forces, if nothing else, teaches you a lot of things. One of the most important lessons that it gives you is adaptability. On top of that, I think nationalism, the love of your country. My father I remember my father telling us while we were young kids that my religion is OG. OG is olive green, which is the uniform, you know. So the love of the nation is so deeply ingrained within us. And then, of course, I come from a family which was grounded, which was rooted very strongly and staunchly, as I say it, very, very Hindu. So they taught me a lot of things. Two of the most important things which I think my father gave me and I inherited from him. One was discipline, because he was an army man. So he ensured that we have discipline, and the discipline of culture really helped in bringing in the ambition of you doing well in whatever you do. So the idea of, yes, I really want to do this the best and better than anyone else was there from the very beginning. So whether I was an employee with a multinational company, or whether I was an employer as an entrepreneur, uh, um, while I was doing hobby singing or I was doing my own writing, I was trying and making an effort to be the best. And that's when I think the second and the most important thing creeps in. The second most important message and idea that was ingrained into our minds was being a seeker. So our parents taught us, our culture taught us to seek more. So we just wanted to seek more. And somewhere down the line, while I was seeking for that greater goodwill, I realized that the larger purpose of life is something else. And when I encountered that larger purpose of life, my larger purpose of life today is to ensure that my kids, so my grandchildren, can turn around and tell me that these many lives got bettered up because my grandmom did something. So that kind of impact,
Wonderful.
I'm not here to do anything else except impact. So the vision was very clear, the seeking nature was very clear, and the discipline was ingrained very, very well. And the love of the country ensured that I did everything to ensure that the country benefits. So my father used to always say that soldiers are not those people who are not only those people who fight at the borders. You can be a soldier by fighting. You can be the best of the farmer, and that's how you can be a soldier to the country as well. Just do whatever you want to do the best. And I realized that I can be a job creator and become a soldier of the country and ensure that the GDP increases and ensure that, large level changes happen. While I'm talking to you, the idea is clearly that if a lot of people start thinking positively towards the post-COVID era, and we shun this laziness of sitting at home and this nervousness that the markets are bad, and there is a positive fervor all around, then nobody can stop us from seeing bright light, because I personally feel that this is the time for India globally. So that is something that I have always kept in my mind as focus, and that's how I've kept on going. So that's where I am, why I am here.
Wonderful. So it comes from the roots, I would
Absolutely.
say. Perfect. So please share some light also on the social and political initiatives taken by you. For instance, setting up the War Room, Ask Devendra app, launching VR app for the first time, introducing Shwet Niti, Mukhyamantri Mitra, and enabling women entrepreneur programs. So yes, there are a lot of programs which you have been a part of and you have taken an initiative for. So yes, we would like to really hear from you. Yes.
A lot of initiatives that I've taken, and I'm sure you have already mentioned that. Two of them, which you did not mention, is what is very close to my heart. So I'm going to be talking about those two initiatives.
Sure, please go ahead.
I belong to Ayodhya. So we have our family trust that actually runs the Saryu Aarti on the river Saryu, exactly like the Ganga River,
Okay.
So
okay.
If you go to Banaras, you will see the Ganga Aarti happening in a very similar manner. About 13 years ago, we started doing Saryu Aarti on a daily basis on the ghats of Saryu River in Ayodhya. Now, it has been visited by the Queen, the Japanese Queen, and the Chief Minister of UP, Yogi Adityanath ji, almost 18 times. A lot of international guests we have received on those ghats. And today, it has become one of the most popular spots, apart from, of course, the Ram Mandir and the proposed Ram Mandir. Now, why I want to tell you this is, and this is an initiative which is also very close to my heart, is because, um, this is where our roots are. This is where the cultures are. Somewhere when you come into public life, it is very critical for you to understand that you have to take your roots along. And in this manner, I ensured that I carried my roots with me and also presented a model of, say, the vision here is so far-fetched that I want to make Ayodhya the spiritual capital of the world. So today,
Wonderful.
with the Ram Mandir being proposed there and a lot of people, tourists going to be coming there, we want to ensure that we start off various initiatives so that across the globe, India can be recognized as a spiritual center, which it already is. And Ayodhya can be recognized as the spiritual capital. In a very similar manner, I adopted about 1,000 villages across the state of Maharashtra. And we set up a small Section 8 company under the Chief Minister's office called the Village Social Transformation Foundation. Now, under United Nations talks about 17 sustainable development goals. Out of these 17 sustainable development goals, we identified 10 SDG goals and mapped it exactly according to the schemes of the government. And we realized that in silos, a lot of departments, a lot of ministries, a lot of these corporate houses want to do a lot of work at the ground level and are doing a lot of transformational work at the ground level. But primarily, a lot of transformation actually does not happen. So 70 years ago, I think when Gandhiji said, Chalo Gaon ki or, and started the Swaraj movement, today also we are still talking about changing the face of the villages. So I understood that there needs to be a stark differentiation and reforms in the way we present things. Because I come from an entrepreneurial venture, entrepreneurial background, I realize that anything which is tangible, anything which is measurable is something which can change. And anything which has the right intention behind it also needs to have the right implementation behind it. So what we primarily did was we picked up a lot of young boys and girls. So we picked up one representative each and posted them in each of these villages, and they worked as catalysts to change the face of these villages according to the plan. Now, this is what happens when new fresh thinking comes in and you try to take an initiative which then becomes the vision and mission of the state and eventually the society. So ideally, the reason why I wanted to talk about these two initiatives and to all the people who have joined you today is primarily to say that it is important for everyone to think big. This is the time where you need, as Indians, as entrepreneurs, as people, as students, we need to think big and act big.
Focus on a larger picture.
Absolutely.
And not just on a micro level.
Absolutely.
Like not just what you're doing, you do that. You have to focus on a larger picture.
Absolutely.
Especially during the current times, what we see.
Absolutely.
So Shweta ji, coming on to the unprecedented situation caused due to COVID-19, that which we are all facing, none of the present generations and even couple of generations before us have ever seen such times where majority of countries across the globe have been on complete lockdown, because of which we are seeing massive disruption both economically as well as socially. So, as an impact of this, there's a super slowdown in the real estate as well as the construction sectors on infrastructure and operations at large. So what is your perspective on the whole scenario when we talk about infrastructure and operations or the real estate sector?
See, I'll tell you, one of the most important things is you have already said that these are unprecedented times, right? And being an entrepreneur, I firmly believe that every challenge is an opportunity in disguise. So if you ask me personally, I think it is an opportunity for a country like India to establish its leadership. And that's what we've done in almost everything that we have done so far. So
Correct.
if you actually look at the lockdown, we were one of the early, proposals of containment and lockdown was seen in India. If you actually look at India supporting as far as pharmaceuticals and medicines is concerned, so you have seen that the amount of quinine that we have sent across the globe has been remarkable. And not only did we increase our production, we also increased our production of PPE kits, of masks, of everything. And now whenever we do something and increase manufacturing in a particular segment, for example, if you look at masks, or PPE kits. So today we are making 3 lakh PPE kits per day. Now there are factories which are making it. There are people who are making it. If you actually look at masks, almost everyone, 135 crore people will eventually wear masks for the next 6 months. So who are these people who are making masks? Ideally, today, if your people, anyone present here would have heard Nirmala Sitharaman ji, and if anybody would have noticed where these masks are coming from, these masks are primarily coming from women SHGs, so self-help groups who are making these masks and are supplying into the market or to the government. Now, this is an opportunity. Now, it needs to be streamlined. So today, what Nirmala Sitharaman ji has done is she has primarily put across a portal, use technology. So the Paisa portal, which the Allahabad bank had made, was being tried only in Gujarat. But now it is going to be across India, and women SHGs will be able to get affordable loans from that portal and also supply products to that portal. Now, in a very similar way, coming to your question of infrastructure and real estate and all of that. See, all of this is going to, and every segment is going to see some changes or the other. And perhaps there are going to be some permanent changes. But trust me, there are 2 factors which are very, very critical. One, everything is going to bounce back. And this rebound will happen first in the Asia Pacific region. And if we try very hard, it will definitely happen in India. Second, I feel that especially in the infrastructure sector, see, there is so much to do. There is so much to do. And if somebody thinks out of the box, and today because of the leadership of Narendra Modi, a lot of things that he's doing is out of the box. So I personally feel that if somebody thinks out of the box, this is the time that we can generate a lot of work. So for example, see, this is the time when people are sitting inside their houses. So everybody understands the value of these 4-letter words called HOME. Right? So if I own a home, I'm just very thankful. And if I don't own a home, by seeing migrants, I feel that, if nothing else, the best security in this world is having a home and having a family, So I think affordable homes is something which is going to see not a downward trend, but an upward trend now and perhaps immediately after this as well. As far as infrastructure is concerned, see, all government needs to do, and today with NRLM getting a boost and Manarega getting a boost, labor laws getting changed, the value of you giving the value of labor getting streamlined across the country. One big project, for example, if you start off with a river linking project today, which has been the idea of the BJP government for a very long time. If you start the river linking project inside of India, we have the funds, we can generate the funds, and it is going to change the face of India completely. So the only thing required is to look at this problem as an opportunity. I don't know how many people of you know this, but see, Narasimha Rao ji, he did not belong to BJP. I'm from BJP, but he, in one night, he did away with the license Raj. And that's precisely what Modi ji said that day. He said that we need a quantum jump. I don't know if you know, we've just had the Pokhran Day and the National
Yeah.
Technology Day 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But during Pokhran times, because India did not have fund to go through that, something called as Pokhran bonds were floated, and Indians across the globe bought those Pokhran bonds, and we could raise that money.
Raise the funds.
So yes, there is money. There is no dearth of money. What we need is right intention. What we need primarily is right focus, and that's about it. We are going to rock this as a big opportunity.
So what do you say about the economic relief package, which is just announced 2 days back? And what's your advice specifically for MSMEs or small or mid-sized firms in terms of their financial growth of businesses as well as fund flows?
Okay, so one of the most important things, I think what people have not said, and I don't know if people have missed it, is that the definition of MSME has primarily changed.
Yes.
Now, please understand that from a 10 lakh micro enterprise, today, even if you do a 5 crore, you are a micro enterprise.
Yeah.
So I knew a lot of people who wanted to stay small because they wanted to avail government benefits. Now, the government, in very simple terms, is saying, do not stay small, think big. And this is precisely one way of saying think big.
Right.
So today, even if you are a 100 crore generator, you are still a medium scale enterprise. You will come in MSME, and you will be able to avail those benefits. So ideally, I think if you look at everything, whether it's fund of funds, or whether it is availability of more liquidity in the market, the idea of the government is, so yes, today Nirmala ji is announcing a lot for the migrants.
Yes.
But the idea of this government categorically has been that push businesses. And once you push businesses, employment will automatically happen. We don't believe in handing out free bills, freebies, subsidies. I don't think that is the way India is going to become a superpower. So hand holding and ensuring that generation of jobs and generation of employability happens is what is the thought process. And I think it has been rolled out very, very well. I think I need to congratulate the leaders on the top, because they've done a fantastic job. The only important and critical thing is the implementation, which is a very bureaucratic process. And last but not the least is for common normal people to gear up and say that, yes, I'm ready for this, or I want this. Usually government, benefits and the beneficiaries are typically people who are very close to the government. Now, when normal, common people get up and say that, yes, I'm going to be a beneficiary because I need to now stand up on my feet and contribute towards the country, I think that is when the real change is going to happen.
Ideally, it should go in the right hands at the right time.
I personally feel that it's corruption happens because we allow it to happen. And bureaucratic process and red tapeism happens because somewhere we thought that bureaucrats and these babus are one big thing, you know. The private companies were never interested in the growth of the country, and so on and so forth. So I personally feel that when there is pressure on all the sides, you know, there is media, there is executive, all the 5 pillars of democracy, when they start working in tandem and pushing and creating a pressure in all of them to perform, I think that is when performance really counts and happens. So I personally feel that this is going to be the performance era. Anybody who will work hard, be positive, and show results will be given the boost. And that's the message. It's very, very clear.
True. So you have already mentioned about the jobs aspect and the employment aspect. But if you see as coronavirus scare settles in India, close to 13.6 crore jobs may be at risk. Industry body CII said that more than half of the tourism and hospitality industry can go sick, with a possible loss of over 20 million jobs if recovery in the industry stretches beyond October 2020. So the script is similar in many of the sectors like services and industries, manufacturing or non-manufacturing sectors. So what impact do we see of the outbreak on the job market specifically?
So
Because
see,
there's definitely distress in people.
yes. So let's understand this. Because we as a country went in for lockdown. So we ensured that we basically give more weightage to the lives of the people than the economy. So we shut down the economy and ensure that lives are saved. Because one of the most important resources I personally feel that India has is human resources. So I think it was a brilliant idea because we saved the most important resource of ourselves, which is human resource. But that, and hence, if you actually look at history, all pandemics have shown a V-shaped dip in the economy. So this V-shaped dip is basically complete losses for a couple of quarters. But after a couple of quarters, you see the economy, the GDP flattening. So with the lockdown, what happened was this V shape actually became a U shape. So the quarters of really low down might increase for maybe not 1 or 2 quarters, but maybe 3 quarters. But the revival is going to be faster, and the hurt is, V is very sharp downward dip. U is a more flatter, but not such a sharper dip. So, so what I feel is by the quarter of 2020.
Sorry, we lost you actually.
The
we
first
lost
quarter
you
of 2021. And come back to normal is going to be something that we need. Now, let's especially in context. Am I there now? Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible now. We lost you in the middle.
Okay, so what I was basically saying was that, by the last quarter of 2020 or the first quarter of 2021, we see a lot of revival. Now, what does revival mean? A lot of these people who have been talking about loss of jobs, yes, we are going to see a dent. We are going to see bad times, and a lot of SMEs will need a lot of hand holding. But trust me, when Y2K happened, when technology came in, a lot of people said, so for example, when ATMs were happening, a lot of people said that what will happen to the cashier? We will lose a lot of jobs from the cashier. But look at this, when you set up an ATM, there is a CCTV manufacturer who gets a job. There is a security guard who gets a job. There is a driver who gets a job who actually carries money. There are 2 more security people inside the van that carries the money. Then they deliver. So it creates so many that, counting one cashier, instead of one cashier, they basically created so many other kind of jobs. I think every challenge is an opportunity, and hence a lot of other jobs are going to be created during these testing times. The fact is, we need to now start looking at areas which is going to create jobs, and upskilling is required. So for example, today we are making 3 lakh PPE kits. Who stops us from making smart PPE kits? These kits which are going to be smart enough, which is going to give a beep or a red light when you are not 6 meters away from someone else. People are saying that the automotive sector is going to see a complete, because people are not going to travel to work, probably work from home, and so on and so forth. But if you have a car, do you think you will not sanitize the car? Probably if somebody sells me a sanitization aftermarket service for cars, I'll be very happy. I will probably do it every month or every week. So contactless deliveries. Now, this is another term which nobody heard of
recently.
before COVID,
it has
right?
sprouted very well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is how new jobs are going to happen, are going to be created. There are going to be, so testing is happening across, across the length and breadth. And these testing booths are being run by people who are testing it eventually. Swabs are going to be created. So, the different sets of jobs is going to be created. As far as tourism is concerned, which your specific question is, or real estate.
And hospitality.
Hospitality,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
You are right that this is going to be a very badly hit. I think
sector.
Aviation, travel, and tourism is going to be really badly hit. But trust me, especially in India, I still feel that, and thankfully with COVID, what we've seen is, unlike the earlier epidemics, we did not see this pandemic go to rural areas in a very bad manner. So I still feel that tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, and say something like agri-tourism is still going to be earning a lot of money. People will look at healthier options of going to trekking, healthier options of going out in places where it will count for tourism. So, and tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, the hotels, the lodges, smaller operations will still work. Perhaps we might not look at a complete, 5-star hotel in a tier 2 cities, but a small room, very, very well sanitized, is definitely going to work. Second, a lot of things, see, eventually we are all humans, we are social people. So,
right.
And we will have to do businesses. So we will travel, we will, everything is going to come back to normal, say
exactly.
another 6-8 months. But
right.
what will change is perhaps how you enter rooms. So contactless entering of your hotel rooms. So that's why technology, you today can book your hotels from your mobile phone. This was unheard of 6 years ago.
Absolutely.
Today, you do not realize that you might just be able to check into your room through your mobile phone. But perhaps through a Bluetooth or through some code, like I'm joining in Zoom, I can probably punch in that number into my mobile phone, and my mobile phone can become a digital key, and I can open the room and get into the room. Now, these things are going to start. So the idea here is that we need to think positive.
Yeah.
We need to look at opportunities. After all, we are all entrepreneurs,
Right.
After all, we are all people on whose shoulder India is going to become the superpower. So we need to think positive, we need to think different, and we need to look for opportunity in every challenge. And this is the biggest challenge which will ensure that we come out as leaders.
Perfect. That's a real wonderful thought, Shweta ji. I mean, this is like and a real eye opener as well for many of us, because the nature of jobs is completely going to change through this, and we're going to use more technology in our day-to-day lives. So it's going to be more integrated in our lifestyles.
Absolutely. So I use this term. There was a time in India where everyone learned English, and that gave us an edge over China, because they didn't know English and we knew English.
Yeah.
I think coding is the new English, Each one of us will have to learn technology, because that is going to be the backbone of every sector, every strata, and every segment. And that's how I think the future is going to be.
Wonderful. So we are all aware about the sad situation of migrant workers and laborers, and how do you see their lives coming back on track after the lockdown, or even now when they are heading back to their hometowns or villages?
Okay, so, a lot has been said and talked about as far as the migrants are concerned. Yeah. There are two things that I firmly believe in. See, I hail from Bihar, where a lot of migrant laborers actually come from. So I also want to remind you of Bangalore a couple of years ago when there were attacks on people from northeastern states. You know, something happened and it triggered a reaction towards North Indian people, northeastern people staying in Bangalore, especially in pubs and all those areas. And a lot of these bartenders, a lot of these waiters were hit, and that ensured that all of them one fine day decided that in thousands they will go back to the northeastern states, right? Every parlor, every salon, every restaurant at that point of time in Bangalore employed northeastern migrants who were working, right? But eventually, now 2 years from then, if you go back to Bangalore and go in a night in a restaurant, in a pub, you will find the same waiters, the same people back. So my firm belief is that all these migrants whom you are seeing going back to their hometowns are going back because one, there is this thought process of a migrant that you know, if I do not have work, I might as well spend time with my family, you know. And that is the mindset in which they are returning back. So all of them will definitely come back. This is my first take. Second, and the most important thing here is if you actually look at the statistics, India's lower middle class has become middle class. The middle class came to upper middle class, and that's how India has progressed. So one of the things in the statistics and numbers you will see is that these laborers have in the past 10 years seen very, very good times. So they have got very good money. The inflation has been in control. So they have actually earned well, and especially with the direct transfer benefits from the government. Everything that was being cut by the middlemen has actually reached these laborers. So I personally feel the community of India is still equipped for a couple of months to see through this pandemic, which is good news for us, because they have enough for them to survive for the next few months, and perhaps post that they will start coming back to their jobs, because then they will be hand to mouth. So I'm very positive in this. You know, I'm no astrologer, but by reading the statistics and numbers and analyzing this, I think this is where I will firmly stand by that. Yes, migrant laborers, workers are seeing bad times today, but trust me, if you look at most of them, most women who are carrying children, they're all smiling. You know, it's for us, it's a sad sight, but for them, it is daily work. They work hard, extremely hard. You know, it is sad to see because they are struggling. They have no food. They don't have proper places to stay, and it's unfortunate. But I know that they will be back. They will come back. So employers don't need to worry. Yes, it is till the time they are not back, how do we survive? And I think you know, most manufacturing people and most construction people, most contractors are going to see dip and bad dip for a couple of quarters. That is post which things will improve and migrant laborers will also be back.
So a very positive thought, Shweta ji, I would say here, that they'll be back, and they'll be back full in action.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So also going on globally, a lot of countries, you know, they have seen a huge impact of this pandemic. So what do you say about the import exports? There's a lot of impact on the import exports as well. So can you throw some light on the same?
Yeah, in fact, you know, the statistics says that we are 34% down as far as our exports are concerned.
Yes.
But also note that so is globally the world.
Absolutely.
Globally, what we need to understand is for the past 5 years or so, between the G20 and the developed countries, the developing countries, we come in developing countries. So the developing countries, the GDP has only been increasing, and the G20, the GDP has only been decreasing. So I personally feel that the worst hit is going to be the European countries. Europe might just see zero growth, absolutely. Brexit is falling apart. I'm sure EU is going to fall apart. A lot of people are going to come out of the union. And you will realize that a lot of opportunities from across the globe, people not trusting China is also going to emerge. So
Absolutely.
again, I will be looking at the global scenario in a very positive way, because I think the entire Asia Pac region is going to benefit a lot. Yes, if you look at the IMF numbers and all that, perhaps Bangladesh, because they are smaller country, Vietnam, because a lot of companies from China are right now moving to Vietnam, because again, it's a very smaller country. Subsidies are low. We have ultimately, we have huge number of problems. We have huge diversification, where, different federal arrangements, state and center sometimes are not same political parties, and so on and so forth. So yes, we will take some time, but I feel with the kind of majority that the central government has, and with the kind of reform mindset that that Modi ji has, I firmly believe that this is the time that we will come together, get our act together, and states will get into competition with each other to get to work as mini countries and attracting different companies from China and so on and so forth. And we will compete with these all these other countries throughout the globe. So I will still see it very, very positively, because I feel it's an opportunity, and not only for India, I think entire Asia Pacific region is going to see a boom. Asia Pacific region, value exchange between the different countries of the APAC region is also something which is pretty open. I feel India, with the internal demands, is also, so the Swadesi movement, if you look at what Modi ji said, vocal for local, this is also going to rise the sentiment of local produce, local consumption. We need to understand that we as a country are diverse, huge, and our consumption, are the kind of scale that we can give and the kind of demand that we can give. A lot of countries, lot of corporates across different countries understand this, and that's the reason why they look towards India. What we need to do, and what our entrepreneurs need to do, is to look inside. We need to start manufacturing for ourselves. Do you know that 90% of agarbattis that we put in our house every single day comes from China? So, agarbatti
Great
jaisi
opportunity.
cheez which we use in front of our own gods, we import from China. That's because the bamboo inside the agarbatti, that thin bamboo that you see, is something which is very, very cheap in China, and they manufacture in volume. And that's why our people, our ITC and other people cannot match that. So somewhere I think the consumption, the demand and demography of India is huge. What we need to do is we need to start manufacturing, and somehow with the support of regulations and laws, we need to start looking at volume and bringing down the cost. I think that is where the crux is. But as far as globally, we are in very good position. And if there is one country which is going to rebound the fastest, it's going to be India.
Absolutely. And India has to see this as a great opportunity going ahead.
Absolutely.
So, and that's the roadmap. So we are getting a lot of questions, and we are getting a lot of appreciation also, saying that it's a superb eye-opening discussion. So can we take the questions quickly, because we have just
Yes,
10
please.
minutes
Yes,
left now. So
Yes, please.
the first question I would take from Devesh Tiwari. His question is, how post-COVID, what is the perspective of government expenditure on beautification projects, on city beautification projects?
Okay, I think
That's a tricky question, though.
no. Trust me, I'm sure he must be in the beautification business.
Infra
And,
projects, yeah.
That's the reason why he's asking that question.
Yeah.
Trust me, one of the most important things today is going to be generation of jobs. One of the critical things in that is unskilled laborers. So anything that employs unskilled laborers and unskilled forces is something which is going to be very welcoming in the near future. Because that is the easiest of the engagement, and landscape beautification projects, especially. So I don't know if Devesh ji knows this, but Nitin Gadkari ji is making infrastructure, huge infrastructure projects, roads, and between the roads, he is giving every meter to a different contractor to be beautified between the two highways, trees to be planted, to be taken care of, and so on and so forth. Now, why? Because unskilled laborers can be used very well, and this is a kind of a SaaS model where you can keep this ongoing for months together, and hence such projects, especially at the state level, is going to be very, very welcome. Just keep your eyes and ears open. The only thing is, I think as of now, tenders of such kind, and especially now with 200 crore tenders only focused on
for India.
The first focus of revival is going to be on larger projects where beautification might be a part of the project. So my advice to Devesh ji is going to be to look at combining his offering together with a lot of affordable housing people, a lot of landscape architectural people, a lot of other builders and infrastructural providers. That's how he will be able to cope up and also get into the larger tenders, because as of now, the government is going to look at the larger tenders, and of course, then it will be broken down into smaller tenders at the state level.
Correct. So, what's your view on the Parliament, the revamp of Parliament and the Central Vista project that was taken up in the by Government of India recently?
Yes. See, I'll tell you, every project today is going to be stalled, and definitely going to be, and such projects which requires larger funds is definitely going to be stalled, because today the idea is to send the liquidity to the people and to the employers, so that it can then further be used to employ more and more people. But till when are we going to stall every project is something that nobody can say.
Yeah, nobody.
I primarily think that everything is going to come back on track by the first quarter of 2021. So every project that you can think of, especially the larger projects like these, will see the light of the day in 2021 for sure. Obviously, with a few changes, fewer complete, say, sanitization is going to be a part of the project, and so on and so forth. So,
so basically, I would say the design would be changed.
Absolutely.
Right. So the elements what we use in design, like the sanitation booths.
Absolutely.
So just right at the entry, you need to have a sanitation booth.
Absolutely.
So that would be a mandate. So design would be changed, but yes, then we have to think through how we can implement those concepts.
The idea is, for every segment, you need to now think of new normals. What are going to be the new normals? So whatever you are doing, whether you are doing beautification, you are doing architectural design, you are doing lighting design, you are doing whatever you are doing, you need to think of new normals and make an SOP of your own, in your own sector and in your own organization, that this is what my offering is going to be henceforth. And
I think, Shweta ji, we'll have to keep another session for lighting design. That will be a really thought-provoking session. We'll have a lot of lighting people from across the globe, and then we'll have all your suggestions, and we'll
That's your favorite subject. I can understand that.
yeah. So we'll put in all these thoughts, and really, we can work upon those
Absolutely,
thoughts
absolutely.
commercially with big brands.
Absolutely.
So that's how we can look into it as well. And so next question I would like to take from Prachi. She wants to know what kind of jump need to go with women entrepreneurs, and she's already recruiting top MIT techno candidates. So how can they motivate them? So please,
Okay,
so
so
she's from
one of the
Pune.
things
Yeah.
that I've been talking about and saying is that the time of women, I think, has really come. So there are two things that I would like to say here. Is see, a lot of these larger corporates are now going to be encouraging work from home, right?
Right.
Now, a lot of these women leave jobs because of family and children and so on and so forth. So, work from home flexible options is something which the women can really take. So,
Absolutely.
you will see a large number of corporates now going back to women, and especially moms, new moms, smaller micro entrepreneurs, to ensure that they become a part of their kitty, their employee base, and so on and so forth. Second, I feel a lot of these women who are micro entrepreneurs, the workforce is going to seriously start increasing these people a lot more, because like for example, I told you that the masks were being made by women. So it is a proven fact that the banks and the NBFCs which give loans to women SHGs, 98% of those loans come back. So all micro entrepreneurs who are going to be women are going to be, this liquidity which is going to be in the market is one of the things that the government will realize, and the NBFCs and the banks will realize, that we have to lend to women because they are serious on giving back the money. They are serious on doing their jobs, and hence entrepreneurs who are women are going to have see a very, very bright light at the end of this tunnel. And last but not the least, I think one of the key ways of attracting work vis-a-vis or in comparison to China, the workforce inclusion of women in China is nearly 40%. Whereas for the past decade or so, India has seen a 90% jump. And today we are, especially in IT sector and a lot of technology sector,
I've seen a lot of
the inclusion rate is very, very high, to a tune of about 70 odd percent. Now, that is something which is going to, in a global world, is going to really attract a lot of work that is going to come, especially based on precision that women offer, adaptability that women offer, a lot of multitasking that women offer
yes.
from China vis-a-vis to India. So I think anybody who's a woman entrepreneur, anybody who's creating a platform for women entrepreneur, and anybody who is engaging, further engaging micro women entrepreneurs are going to be very, very big. So I think she's on the right track. She should just start moving and pushing it ahead.
So we will take just last question. This is from Rajesh Bhaktani. He's asking, don't you feel policies being formulated are more concentrated towards poor and the rich people? So it's like diverse. And I feel that recovery post-COVID and speed to be brought in during recovery will need significant contribution from the middle class sector. What are your thoughts on this and actions required on this?
Perfect. So I think one of the things that Nirmala ji said, I couldn't see her entire press conference because I had already given you time.
Yeah.
But one of the things she said is, don't jump to conclusions. I'm going to come every day for the next few days at 4 o'clock and give you policies for different sectors, different segments, and different stratas. So yes, there is definitely going to be something for the middle class, but the idea is very, very simple. See, please understand this, that if employers So it is not about the middle class or the upper class or the lower class. It is about employers. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are giving jobs, if you are trying to manufacture something, if you are contributing to the GDP of the country, then somewhere you will get a push, so that with that push you will be able to create more jobs and increase the impact that you are making. And eventually, when you give more support or handhold the poorest of the poor. So one of the things that BJP has always thought of and has believed in is something called as Antyodaya, which is reaching to the last
man.
right?
Yeah.
And if you firmly believe, then if you look at what Deen Dayal ji said, and eventually what larger economists have said, that your GDP or India will not become a superpower, which is the dream of Narendra Modi ji, until the last man is benefited, until he is developed. So
Yes.
somewhere down the line, the idea is to push more liquidity, more opportunities, and to them, so that they start picking up this opportunity and start contributing towards the development of the country. The middle class actually contributes a lot to the development because he is somewhere in the middle. So if you hit up at the top of the pyramid and at the bottom of the pyramid, automatically the middle class will shift. So that is the thought process. But I'm sure there are going to be specific policies, and one of the the most popular of the policies is the tax holidays, which the middle class has been. Unfortunately, the middle class takes the burden of tax for the entire country, because hardly 6% of the people at one point of time were giving taxes. So yes, I agree. There are going to be specific, policies for the middle class. Second, the tax gambit is going to increase. GST has increased people who are paying taxes. The indirect taxes have increased. So automatically the burden on the middle class is going to come down. So these things are going to help only the middle class. But eventually, I think we need to stop breaking up the country and the strata into lower, upper, middle, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, true.
That's one of the reasons. The way we need to think now is what we are getting to the table and how we are going to contribute to the GDP of the country, because these times are times which the next generation is not going to see and the earlier generations have not seen.
Absolutely.
If you are listening to this, and if you are part of this, and if you are part of the current times, just think of what I can contribute towards this country and make the best of it.
Absolutely. Very well said, Shweta ji. And lastly, I would want one advice from you, who are actually for the young entrepreneurs who have just stepped into this line of entrepreneurship, because you yourselves have been a really successful entrepreneur with I think 3,500 professionals working for you with you. So what is your tip for the young guns?
See, I think one of the most important things is what I was taught very early in my life. There are no free lunches. So whatever said and done, I can sit here and give you a lot of gyan. But trust me, for this 1 hour, I have struggled for the past so many years of my life. Now, when you were sleeping, I was working. When you were thinking about the idea, I was implementing the idea. When you were dreaming, I was actually slogging. So there is lots and lots and lots of hard work that goes into anything to come true. So I think just being consistent and believing in yourself and believing in your dream is what every entrepreneur has to do. So if you're a young entrepreneur who's set out on this journey, just believe in your idea, because if there is an idea and it can be implemented, it can be done the best by you. This is how every entrepreneur succeeds, and so will you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your wonderful advice. And we'll definitely have a next session, as I just mentioned, about, how we can take up your ideas on and execute and implement in a commercial way.
Thank you
You know?
so much, and sorry
Yeah,
for
thank
the
you.
up. We actually had a storm here in Pune, but
Oh,
it's all good.
I mean,
The
we are just
storm has
waiting in
passed.
Mumbai. We are just waiting for it to arrive in Mumbai now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the storm has passed. So yes, and so will this storm pass.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
sure we will
I
all
hope
pass
so.
by flying colors.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Shweta ji.
God bless.
Thank you. Have
Thank
a
you.
nice day and stay
Thanks.
safe.
Bye
Thanks.
bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.